What matters most? Your character, the results, or your duties? Let's explore. Our life revolves around the question of to do or not to do. In fact, right from the moment we wake up, as we keep going through the day, we always keep making choices, keep deciding what is to be done. And ethical dilemma is also about this. You have to decide between two right options or two wrong options. And today in this episode, we will be discussing how to resolve ethical dilemmas. In fact, I'm going to walk you through ethical decision making. Coming to GS4, case studies. Case studies need you to decide. Case studies need you to resolve those dilemmas which are present in form of cases. And that's what we'll be exploring. And when we talk about resolving ethical dilemmas, there are two ways to resolve it. One, which we call prescriptive approach, that focus on ethical theories. The second one is called values-based, where you resolve a dilemma on the basis of values. And today in this episode, I'll focus on the ethical approaches, that is prescriptive approach to decision making. Philosophers have been grappling with ethical decision making since time immemorial. And they've been looking for answers. And today in this episode, I'll look at three approaches towards resolving ethical dilemmas. The first one, which we call is ends focus, that is consequentialist theories, which focuses on consequences or results as a resolving mechanism. The second one I'm going to look at is your character qualities, the virtues. And the third one I'm going to look at is the duty ethics or the obligations. When you have to do things right, one of the most easiest way to get things done and get the right things done is to look at the results. What I'm going to get out of it. What is the end? So that's why there's a popular saying, all that ends well is perfectly fine. That's one way to resolve dilemmas. And this is what is called consequentialism. And consequentialist theories always look at ends to justify or to resolve a dilemma. Or they always look at ends to justify the means also. So these are also sometimes called end-focused approach to resolving ethical dilemmas, where you look at the end, then you act accordingly. So that is consequentialism. And there are two schools of consequentialism. One is ethical egoism, where you resolve a dilemma on the basis of your self-interest. And the other one is called utilitarianism, which focuses on everybody's happiness. Or in popular terms, it's called greatest good for greatest numbers. When we talk about utilitarians, they will approach ethical decision by looking at the stakeholders first. They will try to understand, if I take this decision in this situation, how it's going to impact the stakeholders. In fact, they believe in something called stakeholder analysis. And what they'll do in this analysis, they'll first identify the stakeholders, then they will list out the option, then they'll try to see how every option they've listed out impacts the stakeholder. That is, what harm those options cause, what benefits those options cause. This is what is called stakeholder analysis. On the basis of this analysis, they will try to resolve a dilemma. Talk about stakeholders. In your exams, you're not supposed to mention stakeholders. In fact, you're supposed to analyze the stakeholders, which we call stakeholder analysis. So next time when you're doing case study answers, don't look at listing the stakeholders. Try analyzing stakeholders. How the decision is going to impact the stakeholders. That is how the utilitarians resolve an ethical dilemma. By looking at the stakeholders, by identifying the harms and the benefits every action or every decision will cause to the stakeholders. That's how they'll identify it. Talking about utilitarians, this whole end-based approach is extremely popular among policymakers, because after all, every policy is about everybody's happiness. So that's why it's very popular among policymakers, utilitarians. In a situation of ethical dilemma, it's not about what you do, it's about what is the right thing to do. Let's look at this next way to resolve an ethical dilemma. And these people are called deontologists. These set of philosophers believed in duties. The word deontology comes from the word deon, the Greek word deon, which means duty. And in a situation of ethical dilemma, these philosophers or these scholars believed in doing one's duty. In fact, they believed in this question, what is your duty in that given situation? And every decision should comply to your duties. So their way out of an ethical dilemma, it's about doing your duties. Oh, interestingly, our life is full of duties. In our personal life, we have duties towards each other. As a citizen, I have a duty towards the country. As a human, I have duty towards this planet Earth. We are all bound to each other by duties. So the deontologists believe in duties, obligations as a way out of ethical dilemma. If you look at both these approaches, they looked at the action that's focused on ends, actions that's focused on obligations. But by looking at actions, they missed one very critical component, that is the person. In a situation of dilemma, what happens to the person? That's when the third approach comes in. This is also known as virtue ethics or your character qualities. Now, these people looked at ethical dilemma or a solution to ethical dilemma based on character qualities of the individual. They believed only one word or one phrase, integrity matters. And this approach was made popular by Aristotle. In fact, right now, as we get into the 21st century, this approach has been revived. Today, we look at leaders who are virtuous. We look for moral exemplars in our life. So that's a third way to resolve an ethical dilemma. Your personal moral quality should act as a guide. Your honesty should be a guide. Your professional integrity should act as a guide. Your commitment to a cause should act as a guide. So here these people, virtue ethicists, focus on your moral qualities to find a way out of a dilemma. So just to give you a recap, if you look at all the three, the first one was about ends, second one was about obligations, the third one, which is my personal favorite, is the virtue ethics. And interestingly, this is something which is very, very important in civil services. Because in civil services, civil servant is supposed to be a role model of integrity. In civil services, a civil servant is not expected to compromise with his professional integrity. That's why in civil services, a lot of ethical dilemmas, we look for solutions which are integrity-based. Not compliance-based, integrity-based. So these are the three ways of resolving an ethical dilemma. Now let's apply this in a case study. You are heading a leading technical institute of the country. The institute is planning to convene an interview panel shortly under your chairmanship for selection of the post of professors. A few days before the interview, you get a call from the personal secretary of a senior government functionary seeking your intervention in favor of the selection of a close relative of the functionary for this post. The PS also informs you that he is aware of the long pending and urgent proposals of your institute for the grant of funds for modernization, which are awaiting the functionary's approval. He assures you that he would get these proposals cleared. What are the options available to you? Now, this is a case study which revolves around a dilemma between the institutional interest and your professional integrity. Now, in this dilemma, you are supposed to ask yourself three questions. If you really want to find a way out of this dilemma, you should be asking yourself three questions. What is my official obligation as the head of the institution? What is my official obligation as head of the selection committee? That's one way out. Second way, you should always ask yourself this question. What action of mine will serve the best interest of the institution? That's the second way out of the dilemma. Third one is you should be looking at your professional integrity. Which decision of mine will reflect my professional integrity? Which decision of mine will not lead to compromise with my professional integrity? So these are the three ways out of the dilemma. So next time when you're doing a case study or a dilemma, or when you face dilemma in your real life also, look at the three things. What are my duties? Which action of mine will get me the best results? Which action of mine is something which will not compromise my integrity? These are the three way out. And that's what we discussed today. And these are known as prescriptive approach to decision making, where duties prescribe a solution, your character qualities prescribe a solution, where the ends prescribe a solution for the dilemma. That's why it's called prescriptive. And interestingly, in case studies, you're supposed to prescribe an option. That's why if you look at all the case study questions, they'll always talk about what are the options available to you, which is the best option available for you. So you have to prescribe a course of action. In this episode, we explored the prescriptive approach to ethical decision making. When I say prescriptive, that means it prescribes a way out of ethical dilemma. If you look at consequentialism, it prescribed end as a way out of ethical dilemma. If you looked at deontology, it focuses on duties as a way out of ethical dilemma. If you look at virtue ethics or Aristotle's approach, it focuses on personal integrity or moral qualities as a way out of ethical dilemma. So all the three, they prescribe a way out of ethical dilemma. Two focusing on action, one focusing on individual qualities. So in other words, your ethical decision making completely revolves around these three things, or these three words: duties, virtues, and consequences. That's what we explore today. Happy learning.